The people of France kept trying to reassure themselves that since Harfleur had fallen, France was blessed with God's divine protection, and the day they repelled the English army and put an end to the prolonged war was near. At a particular time in France, there were 4 students who resided in France in the early years of 1415. Montmorency and his companions, whose names were Richemont, Charlotte, and Philippe, were studying at the Paris Night School. In any case, Montmorency is more keen on catalytic examinations, and his imagination is to uncover the genuine force of the Thinker's Stone that his predecessors repurchased from the Heavenly Land during the last campaign. Instead of focusing on his studies and things that he is thinking about like other students, he derives pleasure from doing personal research and trying out new things. In the meantime, 2 powerful countries, France and Britain, are battling each other during the 100 Years' War, and soon every family serving the Lord of France is motivated to shield Paris from looming problems. Prior to withdrawing, the 4 companions pledged to stay together till their final gasp and give their all to the end of the conflict. However, a brief time frame later, the French armed forces face a sensational loss in Azincourt, and Richemont is evidently killed during the fight. Earlier, before the fight had begun, Montmorency had warned Richemont to also stay away from the battlefield, like her brother had done. Richemont insists that she has no choice, as she is the only one to represent their family, hence saving their faces from shame. Montmorency tries to make her immortal so she will be safe, but it proves abortive. After losing her, he takes up the mantle of revenge and charges himself for immortality. He says if there is no God, he will sell his soul to the devil. Seeing his leftover companions walking out on him, Charlotte has gotten back to her palace, since her sibling's demise has made her the main beneficiary of the privileged position, while Philippe's family gives Burgundy over to the English. Montmorency frantically plays out a custom to call an evil presence fit for making him ready to figure out the mystery of the stone in return for his spirit, calling the sovereign of the Pixies Astaroth in the human world. Astaroth shows Montmorency how to make the mixture, whose power will permit him to swallow the stone and gain his power to turn into a Ulysses. Anyway, something turns out badly, and because of an unforeseen identical effect toward the end of the custom, Montmorency finds that 7 years have passed in the meantime. The fairy that had appeared out of the stone had instructed him to dissolve it into a liquid substance before taking it so as to avoid self-poisoning. He obeys the instructions, but he sleeps off and is only surprised to deduce that he has been asleep for a period of 7 years. After the painful death of his friend, Montmorency took it upon himself to move around France, which is not so distant from Astaroth, in critical search for a solution that would provide him with a way of rounding up the custom and becoming a Ulysses, without any harm or chronic side effects. After the English army emerged victorious in the Battle of Agincourt, they advanced on Paris, the capital of the kingdom, and captured it. The French royal court escaped Paris and relocated their royal palace to Chinon. The duty of Burgundy severed ties with the royal family, allied with the English army. The region was in a state of chaos, uncertain of their fate. The suffering and cries of the masses could be heard throughout the nation of France. A young girl who has just finished having her bath in a stream while her companions, who are kids, watch from afar, prays after dressing up. She prays that the English army would return to their own country and that the war should end quickly. She also prays that her breasts should grow bigger. Her companions giggle at this, but they affirm her prayer points. After the prayer, they are interrupted by an august visitor who happens to be Montmorency. He meets the young lady through his unending excursion. He arrives at a little town called Domremy. The lady's name is Jeanne, and she is 12 years old. Jeanne seems to possess a very soft heart and a kind temperament. She does not seem like a fierce girl, which makes things easier for Montmorency. The princess, whose name is Charlotte, instructs the soldiers of Fortune's leader, a recruit, and her subordinates to keep some groups of people safe. She does this in a quick response to the looming danger of the English armed forces, which seems to have eliminated the larger part of northern France from the empire. Lorraine is in great danger also. The process quickly creates a means to save the situation. He had tried to prepare the portion that would give him the strength he needed to swallow the stone. However, everything proves abortive as Jian interrupts him ignorantly, causing him to mix the portion wrongly, hence throwing him into another long-term coma. After waking up, the fairy that is from the elixir blames him for lacking the ability to mix a portion appropriately. She blames him for lacking the talent acquired to swallow the stone. Jian finds out that she ruined his chances of gaining power as she listens to the fairy on her way to check up on him. However, at the appointment time in the town of Domremy, he gets informed by Astaroth that the action he had taken earlier has prepared his body for the very best turnout that they require. However, he is at a disadvantage because he cannot swallow the stone, because the solution in his body can easily react negatively and eliminate him. The people Princess Charlotte had sent tried to loot Jian and her people of their long-kept food against the day of famine. One of the ladies says they need to get paid in 2 places. It is in the middle of this argument that the English powers show up quite unannounced. They are excessive in number for the soldiers that the princess sent to protect the village. They quickly prepare to fight the evil perpetrators. One of the soldiers throws a sword at Montmorency and tells him to join them, and also puts away his little sword, which is rather incapable of doing anything. The soldiers had left for the battlefront while Jian was praying. Montmorency is in his argument with the fairy, who is trying to prevent him from swallowing the stone or giving it to Jian as he suggested. The fairy finds the idea foolish and very dangerous. The battle gets fierce as Jian's little evacuate the environment. One of them, however, stops and states that Jian cannot be left alone. They all troop back into the place quickly so as to please the soldiers who begin to strike them instead of showing pity. At this point, Jian stops praying as she is visibly worried about them. She steps out to find them, only to see her close little friends eliminated without mercy. She weeps greatly as an English army pierces at her back. Montmorency suddenly stops arguing with the fairy and rushes out, only to find Jian and her little friends in a pool of blood. He quickly tries to rescue her. He removes the sword, which only happens to have pierced her lightly, and then makes up his mind to empower Jian. He recounts her past experience with the soldiers who murdered her sister. One of the young pixies who reminds her of her dear sister has also been killed at the same time, again by the soldiers. Montmorency splits the stone into 2 against the fairy's admonition. He tells Jian to endure the pain as he splits her injury open and inserts the stone. Instead of having Jian die, he would rather have her take the stone and transform into a Ulysses. Immediately this happens, Jian suddenly becomes fierce and wicked. She badges into the gathering of the English army, who were returning to their abode with the soldiers the princess had sent earlier. She eliminates all of them effortlessly, after which she turns to face the soldier who demands their food in exchange for protection. However, one of them interrupts and saves the soldier before Jian can kill her out of aggression and ignorance. The fairy had stated that she was reacting to the stone and had become a serious and heartless contender. After the whole incident, the people of Domremy are ready to let her go, as she can no longer stay with them with such powers. However, the soldiers the princess had sent warned them that people might haunt Jian because of her powers. Montmorency, however, did not agree with this, as he declared her a saint who declared the English armies and their forces, hence bringing justice to France. The English army advances, the French royal court escape Paris and relocate their royal palace to Chinon. Princess Charlotte stands atop the royal court. The king suffers a sudden death, and his direct male descendants have fallen in war, one after the other. As a result, the princess, a woman, ascended to the throne. Responsibility and loneliness weigh heavily on her shoulders. Charlotte calls out the name of a friend with whom she exchanged a promise, Montmorency. After Montmorency declares Jian a saint, he takes her as an accomplice with him, as he has promised to always be by her side. Montmorency begins to tell people about Jian's personality as a sacred being. He also states that she was assigned by God to save France. She is their savior, as she has to save France from the war that has lasted for 8 years. It's also evidence that she is a virgin who has been specifically assigned to protect France from evil and wicked old legendary figures. In a cave, the fairy engages in a conversation with Montmorency, where she states that if they gain the support of the people along the way, it would be hard for inquisitors to label Jian as a heretical witch. She affirms that Montmorency looks like someone with a lot of talents as a con artist other than an alchemist. Jeanne shows up to receive another lubricant from Montmorency's mouth to enhance and maintain her power, since he had inserted the powerful stone into her earlier. Montmorency tries best to avoid this, but eventually succeeds. At the time when the news about Jeanne and her powers began to spread, Montmorency and Jeanne travel down to Chinon to approach Charlotte as to have a conversation with her. On getting to the place, Montmorency, to his surprise, meets Richmont, whom everyone probably thinks has been eliminated by the English army. She blames and accuses him of being careless. She had recounted her experience with one of the English army who asked her to be his knight. However, he harasses her on a particular day, after which she revolts and tries to escape. She's eventually captured. She had waited for Montmorency to save her, but he had failed. Jeanne, on getting to the palace, requests that she be made a knight by the princess. She approaches the princess, who seeks Montmorency. She's also disappointed that he had forgotten the promise they made to each other while they were younger. Jeanne tries to convince her to think positively of Montmorency. She explains that he lost track of time while trying his best to keep the promise, and that he's not the type to break promises. The princess is still not convinced, as she has not even seen Montmorency for a while. Just as Jeanne is in the process of building Montmorency's reputation and trust in Charlotte's heart, a man who is dangerous and also all dressed in an armor attacks them in the room. Jeanne quickly switches into her power mode, where she is able to block his attacks and also defeat him effortlessly. Montmorency is apprehended by La Tremoille, who is his cousin and also one of Charlotte's entourages. He also apprehends Astaroth. This is a betrayal to Montmorency, as his stepbrother has seen to it that they are thrown into the palace prison. Richmont explains that she had tried to secretly create a means to attack the English Empire. She, however, faces an unexpected situation on getting back to France. She was noted to be a rebel and also mistaken for an English agent. Montmorency can only be sorry for not coming through for her during the time. He had thought that she was dead and had decided to keep on living and trying to find a solution on his own, so as to keep the promise of their friendship to stay together forever. Richmont tries to understand everything he has explained, except that Charlotte tries to understand the situation. She believes that Montmorency had abandoned her alongside every other person. She recounts that even her mother abandoned her. She's not willing to forgive Montmorency, even when she is aware that he lost track of time. The English army continued their advance, and in order to stop them, the exiled French royal court in Chinon attempted peace talks with Burgundy. However, Duke John of Burgundy was outrageously murdered during negotiations by radical factions within the royal family. The relationship between the two nations has become irreparable. Duke John was succeeded by Philip the Good. She heads to Chinon alone in a top-secret mission. However, Jeanne has been captured and is being forced to reveal how to transmit the elixir before he butchers her like a rabbit. He's very aware that the Philosopher's Stone is useless without the elixir. He threatens that if Jeanne does not tell him the truth, he will mutilate the princess's beautiful face. The soldiers that were supposed to serve as protection for the princess at the time were paid off to stay out of the matter. La Hire understands that this is what they had tried to achieve. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Montmorency and Richmont are in prison. Richmont explains to Montmorency that Charlotte is no longer the person he knows, as she is now totally changed from before. This is as a result of too many bloodsheds in her family and the absence of help. The former stepbrother had come to the bar to make fun of him. Richmont decides to save him from captivity. This did not eventually happen, as the great female mercenary of Gascon, whose name is La Hire, makes her entrance. Montmorency's stepbrother is shocked to experience such an unannounced entrance and quick defeat as they quickly rush off to check on Jeanne. Just before La Hire made her entrance, La Tremoille, Montmorency's half-brother, reveals his plans to collaborate with the English people to give out France to Burgundy so as to change it into Britain's satellite country. It is after he has revealed his plans that La Hire and her entourage break into the prison to save Montmorency and Richmont before they are eliminated. After they are saved, Montmorency and the others quickly rush to the place where Jeanne is being threatened. At this time, she's really weak and blood is dripping on her face. The princess is quite remorseful and sorry for putting her in such danger. At that point, Charlotte had already developed a very soft spot for her. Montmorency tries to rescue Jeanne and Charlotte from Gerald, who had already held Jeanne for ransom. He inquires for the stones before he releases them. Montmorency tries to trick him into swallowing the stone. Gerald refuses, stating that he knows the outcome is death if he swallows the stone, without having it mixed with the elixir. He recounts that Jeanne told him about it earlier. Montmorency mixes it with the elixir without giving him full details about the use. He releases Jeanne and leaves. Immediately after the fight, Philippe, who seems to be rebelling against their friendship at that time, seems more loyal to her father. This did not sit well with Montmorency at all. Montmorency prepares to meet her and try his possible best to change her mind. However, after catching up with her, he tries to cajole her deeply into swearing her faithfulness to the Valois. He asks her to join forces with France against the English people. Philippe, however, merely kisses him, and is the purpose for requiring the Philosopher's Stone on his dad's wish. She kisses Montmorency and moves on to her town. Montmorency only stared in disbelief. She had kissed Montmorency with the intention of getting some remedy, after which she exited the palace. She had revealed that she must follow her father's wishes no matter what, and she cannot join forces with them. However, Charlotte is bent on protecting the country with everything she has. She eventually makes Jeanne a knight and the leader of the French armed forces. Everyone is happy with the new turnout of things. She had also placed Montmorency as her second in command. Meanwhile, while the whole celebration is on, La Tremoille, who is Montmorency's half-brother, has decided to seek assistance to scatter the sweetness of the whole village. He plans to disgrace Jeanne for no just cause. He's quite happy that Jeanne will not be accepted as a knight by God because of the Philosopher's Stone that is implanted into her. The Cathedral of Notre Dame in Reims, a French king, has been crowned in this location for generations. However, due to the sudden death of Charles VI, no one sits on the French throne. England saw this as an opportunity that they had a crowning ceremony in the cathedral for the king, Henry VI, in an attempt to legitimize their rule of France. The crowning ceremony must be held for Princess Charlotte as soon as possible. They must, however, first liberate Orleans to secure a safe path to the Reims. The clash in Orleans intensified as the tide of battle shifted in England's favor. To get Reims back again and carry on with Charlotte's celebration as the new Queen of France, the French armed forces are to break up the attack on Orleans, which is to give room for France's victory. However, this is a rather impossible thing, as Charlotte does not have the number of required troops to carry out the business. Richemont tries to step in for her as she goes to sort out her brother's assistance. On getting to her brother's palace, she deduces that he is trying to protect her, but he is also on a quest to be fair to both France and England. Richemont is angry and disappointed that he is not willing to offer assistance, as she is badly in need of the troop so as to assist her friends. Her brother wants to stay neutral to both sides until the conflict is over. However, in the palace, La Tremoille, who is Montmorency's half-brother, returns to Chinon with a letter. He had orchestrated the ending of Jeanne's peace in France, as the letter entails a virginity trial of Jeanne. The virginity test is set to deduce if she has sold her soul to the devil for power. The people are made to believe that there is a high tendency that she has sold her soul to the devil to acquire her powers. However, Montmorency is shocked, and so is Charlotte. They vehemently kick against it, and they are not in any way willing to approve of the test. They demand to know the reason for the test. Richemont gets into a conversation with Charlotte. The intensity of the conversation leads to a breakup. Charlotte is unhappy that Richemont is unable to cajole her brother to offer them help. Richemont is quite angry that Charlotte is selfish, and she is not understanding the whole situation. She is also unhappy that she is unable to help Charlotte. She leaves her job of knight and excuses herself from the palace for other purposes. Eventually, Montmorency's half-brother carries out his evil plan. He sows a poisonous soil into the people's hearts, causing them to rebel greatly against Charlotte and Jeanne. The protest that Charlotte must approve of the virginity test. While Gian is still inside the palace with Charlotte and the people are outside in the rain, Montmorency decides to go and calm them down. However, the thugs amidst them bully Montmorency, which scares Astaroth, who quickly goes to report the situation to Charlotte and Jean. This angers Gian greatly as she vehemently goes outside at her full power. However, she is unable to kill anyone as the power softens after 3 minutes. She had turned into a Ulysses earlier, which had given people the wrong impression. Furthermore, Montmorency explains that Gian is a holy person and that she could not possibly hurt anyone due to the pain she had suffered when she lost her sister to the English army. She is aware that death means that the person will no longer be seen on the surface of the earth. She could not possibly harm anyone. Everybody's orientation changes immediately as they now see her as a holy person. They begin to orchestrate an attack out of passion against the English army. Back in her abode, Philippe puts on an ancient old cap that charges her up alongside the remedy she had taken from Montmorency earlier, after which she transforms into a Ulysses after letting out a shout. She had fulfilled her father's wish with this. Philippe's appearance and carriage is also bound to change after she has become a Ulysses. Her friends had no idea of what she was up to. She finds Gian to be a threat to her, and so she is on a mission to be equal to her no matter what. This had propelled her to sort out the powers that would turn her into an immortal being. She is set to return to the palace in her new form. The battle between England and France was about to climax at Orleans. If this land can be conquered, the English army will be able to topple the rest of South France. On the other hand, if this land can be protected, the French army will be able to organize the crowning for Princess Charlotte. Montmorency was trying to command a troop of about 100 soldiers to deliver provisions to Orleans. However, the bridge used to cross the Loire River was already occupied by the English army, and the impregnable Tourelles complex sits on the southern shore. Their best option is to go around to the relatively unguarded east side. Montmorency instructs Astaroth to tell the commanding officer in Orleans to bring over diversionary troops. Gian and Montmorency take a step of visiting the ambushed Orleans, whose military is under Richemont's brother, whose name is Alencon. Alencon is hot-tempered and gets angry most of the time for just cause. This causes Montmorency to be a little bit distant from him. They also meet with Charlotte's younger brother, whose name is Batard. Charlotte, however, had always bullied him to dress like a lady, as she had affirmed since childhood that she wanted a younger sister and not a younger brother. Alencon makes fun of Gian for finding out that she is to be placed in the battle front. He advised that they send her back and not allow the little girl to go into battle. He foolishly decides to redeem himself, hence going to stage an attack on his own without anybody's help. However, he meets someone who is not his match in person of Philippe. She is about eliminating him when Gian, who has transformed into an Ulysses, shows up immediately. Alencon is surprised to see the new turn of things, and he recounts that it is a battle between two beings who are not humans. The battle between the two of them becomes very intense. Alencon is severely injured and is unable to move well from a place to another. Philippe fights Gian with the attempt to test the white Ulysses of its worthiness. However, in Paris, Ulysses, which is written as Ulysse in French, is recounted to be an overwhelming fighting power. However, England used to be a land of monsters. The history of battle for them is the history of monster hunting. They also believe that there is nothing new with everything they are going through. However, it is noted that France possesses a geographical advantage. Gian and Montmorency go up against Philippe vehemently in order to destroy her and force her to retreat. Immediately after her exploits, she is praised and recounted as the most awesome woman in the time. Everyone praises Gian, including Montmorency. She kisses him, recounting that she feels better and refreshed. She disturbs him jokingly for more elixir as Alencon interrupts due to his jealousy. At night, Montmorency shares the same bed with Gian as he jolts into a reality when a sensitive part of her body opens. He's unable to deduce what is going on with him. He inquires to know from Astaroth, who explains that he is probably developing feelings for her little by little due to the kisses they had shared in the past. She recounts that it is normal as humans feel the need to procreate. He declines and asks to know how it can be stopped immediately. Astaroth tells him to bring out the Philosopher's Stone as she creates an imaginary woman for Montmorency to behold. She recounts that if he draws out the power of the Philosopher's Stone to its limit, the beauty will be his. He is quite surprised that the Philosopher's Stone still possesses such power. He is told that he will not be able to love any human if he embraces her. He says he cannot do that because true love can only be developed if quality time is spent together, irrespective of her beauty. The next morning, to the surprise of everyone, the youths in the kingdom already joined forces with themselves, as they are prepared to attack the English armies on their own. The occurrence with Gian and Ulysses had propelled them to be brave and defendant of their country. They are begging to head towards the camp of the English armies. Information concerning this is quickly brought to Montmorency, who is shocked and tries to procure a solution so that many lives will not be lost. Alencon blames him for everything and states that they are unable to take action if they are too demoralized, and that if they get too worked up, they become irrational and they get out of control. He blames Montmorency and Gian for boosting their morale too much. Alencon quickly devises a means to get them out of the mess. He states that they will use the mob headed for the Tourelles complex as a diversion, and their forces will conquer the other fortresses as they must not die in vain. Montmorency agrees with this and recounts it in his heart that it's a logical decision as Richemont did train him very well. However, their plans get interrupted as Gian did not seem to agree to using the people as a diversion. She sees this as wickedness and will not let it happen. Alencon and the others try to drag it out with her, but Astaroth prevents them as she recounts that her mood and countenance has changed, based on the Philosopher's Stone that is planted into her. And there is nothing that can change her mind. She had better be left alone. She says that they must help the people as they are the only hope for them. They decide to accompany her because of the fear of losing her. However, on getting to the battlefield, a man watches the whole scenery from afar, waiting for the appropriate time to carry out his evil plan. Montmorency and Gian, on the other hand, are also hiding, patiently waiting for the time to launch their plan. The battle becomes more fierce as passion begins to overwhelm their fear. Just at this time, the hunter of Ulysses shows up immediately in preparation to get the stone. Gian prepares to resist his attack at all cost, as she patiently waits in her hiding place. At the appointed time, she comes out to shield the people and withstand the attack. However, it was all a fake attack, as the real attack is to be staged after she has been weakened. At this point, Philippe shows up to end both of them simultaneously. She gives charge to the hunter of Ulysses, who shoots the main arrow at them without mercy. Everyone watches in awe as they are surprised to see those things happen. Eventually, the attack ends both Philippe and Gian's life. Philippe states her hatred for Gian after the attack and affirms to the fact that she has planned the attack, so that Montmorency can watch the two people that he loves dying. Montmorency is shocked and cannot bring himself to the awareness of her death. He seems rather confused and is not willing to accept the truth. They are forced to retreat immediately as Gian, who happens to be their archangel, is dead already. There is no way the English army can be defeated without Gian. Everyone retreats sadly without any glimpse of hope in their faces. They take Gian's body along with them. The French armed force refocuses at the Augustines, a historic spiritual neighborhood nowadays, transformed into a suburb close to the Les Tourelles. Alternatively, Gian is presently out bloodless from having lost her heart. With the stone scarcely ready to hold her alive, however, there is still a possible way that guarantees her safety. Astaroth procures a solution to Montmorency. Astaroth advises Montmorency that the fine way to save her is with Excalibur, also known as Excalibur, one great historical rationalist stone with the pressure of mending any twisted. Since the blade is supposed to be located in Montmorency's neighborhood land, Brittany, Alencon expects him to contact his granddad, Jean de Craon, and request from him for officers to help with the fight. In spite of the disdain among him and his granddad, Montmorency goes to Champtocé and talks with Jean, who solutions that he'll mortgage him warring parties supplied that Montmorency has the same opinion. to wed his very own cousin, Catherine de Thouars, joining the two most incredible households in Brittany. Montmorency at first won't ruin his promise to stay close with the aid of Jeanne, barring wedding. However, Catherine, and her affection for him is of the same opinion, to cause Jeanne de Craon to be given that they had intercourse all through the evening. Alongside these lines, Montmorency's granddad consents to loan him the warriors he needs, in spite of having won from his close friend Flamel that his grandson might be the unbelievable Antichrist and will end the world. In the interim, La Recrute's unit is shipped off Orleans to assist Alencon, and Philippe additionally can arouse thanks to the protective cap's recuperating skills. While La Recrute and Xaintrailles guard Orleans, Astaroth drives Alencon and Batard to the spot where she had stowed away Excalibur's casing, uncovering her to be the wonderful woman of the lake that recovered the sword after the passing of ruler Arthur. When they arrive at the refuge with the help of sure pixies, the gathering experiences the Welsh author and writer Thomas Malory, who attempts to take the casing on Bedford's structure. Astaroth anyway figures out how to get better. And to counter the showing up English armed force, Alencon orders Batard and Astaroth to get in Orleans while he stays as soon as once more to battle, maintaining Malory with him as a prisoner. Luckily, Richmont's military shows up with best timing to store Alencon despite the reality that Malory got away. Then siblings head to the avenue among Champtocé and Orleans, where La Tremoille is attempting to end Montmorency's troopers with his very personal military, while Richmont maintains La Tremoille involved. Montmorency and Alencon at last arrive at the Augustines, where due to the fact of the sheath and Montmorency's kiss, Jeanne effectively mends and awakens. Montmorency's kiss always creates an effect on Jeanne's system that either guarantees her safety or gives her powers. Jeanne's return delights the French armed force, permitting a counter-assault in opposition to Les Tourelles. Be that as it may, to safeguard Jeanne from being harmed anymore, Montmorency at first orders her to keep away from the combat zone. On the other hand, when Philippe receives back to combat, Jeanne chooses to confront her, and the two Ulysses face each different in an emotional duel. Further roused via Montmorency, the French ship off a front dealing with attack, breaking the English first line and opening the way to Montmorency. Being at impediment, Philippe efficiently makes Jeanne bring down her defenses with the aid of uncovering to her the alleged evening of affection Montmorency had with her cousin. And to keep her existence, Montmorency should choose between limited alternatives, however swallow the other component of the stone, turning into a Ulysses himself, in a frantic activity to kill Jeanne. Glasdale winds up penetrating Philippe, falling with her in Loire when the extension breaks down. And though then the remainder of the English armed forces gives up, in any case, whilst the French are as yet glorying, Darkish miscal everything, and a greatly surprised Astaroth says that the logician stone has run wild, opening the doors of misery above earth. While the French shy away, taking a blacked-out Jeanne with them, Montmorency tries to give up the colossal beast, showing up from a spot past reality. Then again, the monster in the end enters his physique and claims it. While obvious, Montmorency has dreams of an ancient combat between the devil-like beast and a minister upheld by Astaroth that banished him to a unique universe utilizing the stone at the expense of his life, thus connecting the pixie to the artifact to turn into its gatekeeper. Simultaneously, Flamel arrives at the scaffold, uncovering himself to the remainder of the knights, an affiliation made by humans to discover and obliterate each logician stone on the planet, to shut down these supposed divine beings, which are inferred to be outsiders from a specific universe and makers of humanity. From compromising the people, the historical chemist tries to war in opposition to the evil presence, but the animal in the long run kills him. La Recrude has his spot in the wake of having punctured himself with the blade Joyeuse to accumulate Ulysses' powers. But even like this, she is right away crushed. Then it's Jeanne's move, and retaining an idea that battling with her, Montmorency receives return to himself briefly. asking his companions to kill him. By then, the devil attempts to make its lights out time for him, once more showing him goals representing matters to come, where Montmorency sees the future maintaining up Jean in Rouen. The devil, who ends up being the historic Sumerian god Enlil, absolutely assumes command over Montmorency's body and his powers, calling to earth his between-layered employees to help him with stifling the human race. Gian and La Recrute try to confront him as soon as more, but La Recrute is gravely injured, leaving the sole Gian equipped to battle. By then, Philippe and Gladsdale additionally are a part of the fight, trying to utilize the force of Gladsdale's spear of Longinus to kill Enlil at the fee of Philippe's life. Gian stops the bolt to not forfeit specific lives, and because of Philippe, the Pucelle figures out how to kiss Enlil in a frantic reaction to conscious Montmorency. Like this, Gian can meet Montmorency in the subliminal of his previous, where Enlil has caught him. On the other hand, the kid at first doesn't identify her. After many endeavors, Gian figures out how to motivate him to recall everything. Without even like this, Montmorency will no longer awaken, on account that he would alternatively not return due to the fact that it has grown to be so undeniably obvious that Gian's fate is. Gian in any case strikes him to accept that future isn't now composed, and that they can try to radically change it, and with the aid of them, Montmorency rises, tossing Enlil out of his body. Combining efforts, Montmorency and Gian are triumphant with regards to overcoming Enlil, sending him lower back into his layered jail. While Gian is but depleted from the fight, the apparition of the remaining Duke of Burgundy indeed attempts to search for Philippe to kill Gian. By using then, Philippe asks Gladsdale to kill her prior to being enslaved once more with the aid of the holy individual's vessel Starvation for blood. But the knight powerfully eliminates the remnant from her, saving Philippe from her urge of being the Dark Ulysses. Later it will be uncovered that the defensive cap has now not been annihilated. However, Philippe has no staying power to comply with the Phantom's voice. With Orleans and Les Tourelles formally lost, Mallory orders the leftovers of the English armed forces, driven via John Talbot, to withdraw by way of Bedford's organization, guaranteeing that their ruler is furtively putting up a counter-hostile to alternate tides of the combat, certainly, and obliterate Gian's legend simultaneously. While Orleans commends the end of the attack, Gian and the others return to Chinon, and Charlotte makes Montgomery Maréchal de France, entrusting to him the responsibility to guard both Gian and the Valois from these schemers, definitely trucking away among them. Under Gian and Montmorency's lead, the French armed forces overcome the English in Patay, opening the way towards Reims, the place where Charlotte is formally delegated sovereign of France. They are eventually able to record victory over the English army after the whole ordeal. However, it could not have been possible without Montmorency and Gian, and all other patriots who did not give up on their victory. Montmorency is appreciated for having kept up their friendship, promising to stand by each other, and France is to enjoy serenity and freedom from the English colony for the rest of their days on earth. Gian can only miss her sister and her past. She is, however, delighted about her present accomplishments and exploits. Did you enjoy this recap? If you did, kindly like this video and subscribe to the channel so we can bring you more thrilling anime recaps like this. Until next time, do take care and stay safe.